Do you want to see something? Do you want to see what I found in my desk? Yeah.
That means it's on.
Okay.
Don't confuse her, Mary. You're on TV.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
Good afternoon, Kara. My name is Bill Samaras. I'm the mayor of the city. I'd like to have the city council introduce themselves first.
Why don't we do a roll?
Okay,
Yeah.
I apologize for that technical thing.
Council Leahy. Here. Council Mercier. Council Milonazo.
Here.
Council Noon.
Here.
Mayor Samaras.
Here.
Council Cirillo.
Here.
Council Conway.
Here.
Council Elliott.
Here.
Council Kennedy.
Here.
That's 9 present.
I guess we don't have to introduce ourselves. Hope you caught everybody's name as it went by.
Got it.
But first of all, we want to apologize for the breakdown in communications that happened. But the thing is, the council felt that to be fair to you and to actually all the candidates is to ensure that as city councilors, whatever questions were asked, that they'd be understood. And if there was a need to question, again, we could do it. So we're going to begin this again. The clerk will call the different councilors. Basically, we're asking one question at a time, but a follow-up question if it's felt that it's necessary, okay?
Sounds good.
But we, as you know, we allowed the candidates to introduce themselves. So why don't you do that again? You have to take a couple of minutes to introduce yourself.
Sure, and thank you all for letting me come here in person and speak to you and hear everything I have to say without any interruptions or interference. I'm Kara McSwiggan. I got my bachelor's degree in accounting from Assumption College. And from there, I went to work at a mid-sized public accounting firm out of Boston called Wolf & Company. I was there for a little over 2 years, and during that time, I also got my CPA license and my master's degree from Northeastern. During my time at Wolf, I saw a variety of clients. I was an auditor, and a variety of industries, worked with many different bosses, many different personalities, was managing a few staff members towards the end of my time at Wolf. From there, I went on to Tufts Medical Center, where I worked as a senior accountant. It was a very high visibility role. We did a lot of monthly analysis, presenting to top-level management on a monthly basis, budget to actual results, and month-over-month fluctuation analysis. I also did the preparation of the 990 tax return there as well, and I was the point person for the audit at Tufts. I was the main point of contact for all of the schedules and notes to the financial statements and kind of coordinating that. And then towards the end of my time at Tufts is when my husband graduated law school, joined the Army, and we moved down to Georgetown, Texas. And I got a job working for the city of Georgetown there. And I was introduced to the world of municipal government and government finance and kind of opened my eyes to a whole new world. And I really enjoyed my 2 years there. I oversaw the investments, the debt portfolio. I went through 2 CAFR seasons, the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, 2 budget seasons there as well. Towards the end of my time there, I was offered a promotion to treasurer or assistant controller, but unfortunately we had to move again and wound up at West Point. And I've been working for a virtual CPA firm ever since.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Clerk, please call.
I'm going to start with a question.
Yes.
I thought we were going to introduce ourselves now.
Well,
we're all
we
done. Okay.
basically did
All right.
on the roll
Roll
call.
call, all right. Okay, thank you. Thanks for coming in. My question was, are you familiar with the situation we have with the school department and the extra audits that we had? And basically, if you are familiar with that, we want to make sure that history does not repeat itself. So what do you think you would do differently, or what do you think you would implement that would help us have a better handle on school finances as well as city finances?
Yeah, I think step one would be to take a really detailed look at the audit report and look at their findings, their recommendations, and first and foremost, make sure anything that the auditing firm recommends is in place. And beyond that, you know, really take a deep look at what happened and how it happened, and make sure that every possible control to prevent or detect the same situation from happening again is in place.
Thank you. And you do know that, I think we had mentioned this too, so Tuesday nights we have our meetings and you're required to come to the meetings Tuesday nights. And we probably haven't had it in a while, but we may occasionally have subcommittee on clerks or auditor, and you would come in and we would just get updated and briefed on what's happening, so.
Okay,
be
great.
Prepared for that. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, Kara, I'm Rita Mercia. I'm honored to have you come here all the way from New York. Sorry to do that, but in all fairness, we couldn't hear what you said, and I bet you said some great things. And I wanted to say, if you were here, what was the first thing you do in your first 90 days, but I'm saving that for someone down the road there, so I won't go there. Now, you were the auditor for the city of Georgetown, Texas, and when you were, how many people in the audit office did you oversee?
I was a senior accountant in Georgetown, and nobody directly reported to me. There were other staff accountants that I helped along the way or would come to me with questions or looking for guidance.
Do you know the population of the city of Georgetown, Texas? What's the population there?
It's up to almost 75,000 now. It's been one of the top fastest growing cities in the country for the past 4 years.
I didn't get to hear too much of what you said, but I did think that I heard you say that your husband was retiring in December, or he will?
His resignation is in, and he is committed to stay on through December, yes.
Okay, so if by hypothetical example we were to choose you, how soon would you be able to get up here?
Well, I mentioned this last time, but if need be, I can be up here, you know, before my husband's commitment is done. You know, we have family in the area, and, you know, I've learned to be very flexible as a military spouse. So I moved down to Texas before he did, actually, too. So it would be like tradition.
Okay, and I'm just curious to know, Would you consider yourself a micromanager or a delegator?
Probably neither of those. I'd probably say somewhere in the middle. I like to teach, and I like who I'm talking to be able to explain the full picture and oversee what they're doing. Kind of a trust but verify mindset.
Okay, and the very last question is the one that I asked you that I couldn't really, in all honesty, hear the answer. And I asked others, they didn't get it either. No, you didn't. You lies a lot. What is the greatest quality that you will bring with you for this job?
It's really my work ethic. I'm a very conscientious employee, and there's just something within me that I don't allow myself to leave until the job's done to my satisfaction. I don't cut corners. I do everything 100%, and I've brought that quality to every job I've had thus far, and I would bring it to the city as well.
Thank you very much. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Hi, Kara. Again,
Hi.
thank you for being here this evening. In my opinion, you have a very strong resume.
Thank you.
I think the fact that you were in Georgetown for a period of time, and I actually went on their website, and in fact, I think you all received the same type of budget award that we've received in the past. And we, as you probably know, base our budget on performance measurements. And in the auditor's office is about a dozen performance measurements that the auditor has been working on. I think last year they completed 3. There's 4 or 5 that are still ongoing. And there's in fiscal 2020, there's 3 new ones that are being looked at. And just one of them is to complete all financial and reporting on time, including Schedule A. So I guess my question to you is would you go about making sure that all of the financial reports are done in a timely manner and that we actually get on a quarterly basis from the auditor kind of a snapshot of where we are through the end of the quarter. So how would you go about trying to make sure that that performance measurement gets met for FY20, dealing with financial statements?
Yeah, I think step 1 would be to go in and see what it is exactly that needs to be completed and what the deadlines are, and sort of back up from there, factoring in time for staff to complete, for levels of review, and then set milestones along the way. We need this done by X date, you need this to be done, and so that it's appropriately reviewed and completed. I'm very big into list making and writing things down and having goals. So I think it's really important that that's communicated to all staff and that everyone knows what the goal is, and we can all work as a team towards that goal.
Thank you. My second question, have you been involved in any payroll work putting together?
I have actually. At the City of Georgetown, I was the backup payroll supervisor. So when our payroll supervisor went on vacation, I was in charge, and there was one payroll that I had to run all by myself, and I sweated out that week because you don't want to mess with people's pay.
Right.
So I do have experience in payroll.
Okay, thank you. Last question, have you ever been involved in responding to third-party audit findings?
I have, yes, both from the audit side and from the other side as the city as well. As an auditor, we would always go back in and make sure that all of our findings were appropriately addressed. That was step 1 during field work. And also as accountant for the city, I made sure that everything was addressed that the auditors found. That was step 1.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good
Thank
luck.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Carol, thank you for drove down here today. Appreciate that. I do agree with Councilor Malnazzo that you do have an impressive resume. Could you tell us how your experience at Georgetown helped prepare you for the job here at Lowell, or any other experience that you had, like say auditor before that, as an auditor? So please speak to that.
Sure. I think my experience in Georgetown specifically would translate really well in Lowell. Having experience in municipal government, I kind of touched on this before, but it really opened my eyes to a whole new world of accounting. I went into that job thinking, I have audit experience. I've worked for a nonprofit. This should be fine. But it was really a really specific level of experience that I gained while in Georgetown in terms of fund accounting, the presentation of the financial statements, the CAFR, municipal bond issuances. I had some extensive specific training while I worked for Georgetown. They sent me to a conference down in Houston to train on municipal bonds. The restrictions over cash expenditures, there really are a lot more regulations that I was introduced to while I was in Georgetown that I didn't have any prior knowledge of.
So working at Georgetown, I assume that you deal with other department heads as well, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so how do you deal with difficult, to work with department head?
I have worked with a lot of different personality types in my career. As an auditor, I had a lot of different bosses. In Georgetown specifically, I was assigned the police and fire department and also the fleet department. So they were all very different personality types to deal with. I think just open and direct communication is key. Just being as straightforward as possible, being very matter of fact and making sure that I'm doing my job correctly. And as long as you speak to everyone with respect and politeness, I think you can communicate what your end goal is and find a mutual ground and really just reach your same goals together.
Councilor Mercier asked you a question. I think the question is related to what I was about to ask you, is have you ever supervised anyone in your past job? What was the answers to that again?
Yeah, so at Tufts I had one accountant under me. And I currently, at my virtual CPA firm, I have one accountant under me that I review her work on a monthly basis and provide feedback to her as well. And that's about the capacity of my management. But I mentioned this last time. I'm sorry if any of this is redundant. It may or may not be. I don't know where exactly it cut out. But I feel that I have strong leadership skills as a person. I grew up playing sports. I've always been sort of a leader and somebody that would take younger, more experienced people under my wing and coach them along and encourage them. So I have no reservations about the need to supervise or to lead.
Thank you, and thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kara. My question, I'm going to repeat the same question that I asked. The one thing about the auditor's role, it's very important. You are the gatekeeper, and especially for the city council. I mean, any issues that go on regarding finances, the only way we can truly find out is from your reports. So it's your responsibility that all the department heads of the city, the various departments, follow the ordinances of the city, the state, the regulations of the city, the state, the federal government. But there are some people that will say, some departments that may not clearly understand their responsibility. How, and would be, we'll say, maybe callous, maybe indifferent to doing it, but willing to do it, but maybe truly not understanding. But the thing is, we've gone into some very serious problems because of that. But there are also those that may have done something, we'll say, not correctly, and they want it passed. They just don't want, and they put pressure on you. They put a lot of pressure on you. You're going to do this to us, my department. I can go and see so and so, but you're the gatekeeper. How are you going to handle that?
I think step one is to make sure everyone is properly informed and trained on what the expectations are and what the laws are. And once we have established that everyone should know or does know what is meant to be done, beyond that, if anybody is not following proper procedure, I think it's important that they're communicated with directly and openly, and I have no problem with doing that. That's my job as an auditor, is to be straightforward and direct, politely, but if somebody needs to be told that something's not being done correctly, I have no problem doing that.
I think everybody's used the word politely, during these interviews and things like that. But I'm talking about the issues where it's a serious issue. And do you have any problems of coming before the city council and saying, I've done the audit in this area here, but I find them not responsive to, I apologize for that.
No problem.
And would that bother you, having to, get personally involved or come before this council on a meeting night and state this information?
No, not at all. I'd say that's one of the major goals of this position is to keep the city council well informed, so I think that would be necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, Kara. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you.
As the city auditor, you're going to have a very important role here in the city of Lowell. So I would like to know what are some things that you really enjoy about the city and what makes you want to be here and be our auditor. Thank you.
Yeah, so the city is, feels like home to me. I grew up just around the corner, and I have memories as a child of, going to Spinners games, going to basketball camp at UMass Lowell, playing in tournaments at McPherson Park. So it's very near and dear to my heart, and even more so after being away for the past 4.5 years. I have a sense of pride when people ask me where I'm from, which happens quite often. And the city itself is so culturally diverse. It's really just kind of a melting pot, and I love it. I have, like I said, a soft spot in my heart for Lowell, and I would be so proud to say that I work for the city as a city auditor.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chiara.
Good evening.
Thank you for applying for the job and welcome.
Thank you.
I have a question and just a point of clarification. First, you mentioned your husband would be resigning. Was it in December, January, did you say?
His resignation is already in, but he'll be cleared to leave West Point in December.
By December?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And when would you be available if you were successful in this, acquiring this position?
I can be available sooner than that if need be. We have a family, so I would just need to make arrangements for my children. But we have family in the area. We have a support system. So.
So are you talking about a month, or 2 months, or 3 months, or?
At least probably 2 months.
Okay. Okay, all right, thank you. And to the question, I'm glad Councilor Mercia didn't steal my question. I was a little nervous about that. But if you were successful in getting this job, could you explain to us what that first 90 days might look like to you in regards to your style, communication, policy, working with other departments, and I think that it has been brought out, the school department in particular, and what type of communication might you set up with them?
I would first and foremost meet my staff and understand what happens in the auditor's office and who does what, get a high-level picture of that. I would also really love to introduce myself, have face-to-face meetings with the departments, get sort of a high-level picture of how things work. As far as the school department, step one, I think, would be to do a detailed review of the audit report. As I mentioned, make sure that all findings have been addressed or will be addressed, and make sure that any additional controls that need to be put into place are done so as soon as possible, and maybe set up a meeting to go through, the controls that are in place and what needs to happen there to assure that history doesn't repeat itself again.
It just, again, just a quick follow-up. Would you be meeting with the school department, the CFO, on a like regular basis?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I'd say that would be step one.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Kara, Rodney Elliott, thanks for coming again.
Hey, thank you.
I think many of the responses to previous questions were helpful. I like your response to your strengths, the third-party audit finding. Good to know you have experience with municipal bond. I think that would help the CFO with a team, because there is a team. You're independent. So I guess my question would be, there's one of the criteria, I'm sure you saw in the job posting, is to develop and plan review procedures for periodic field post audits and some special studies, which I think would be helpful. What would be your thought on how to do such exercises?
Can you reread that one?
Yeah, sure.
excerpt?
So one of the bullets is to plan, develop, and review procedures for periodic field post audits. So, going out and perhaps identifying or selecting a particular department or an area that may warrant a special study. For instance, we've had some challenges in the past in other departments, and I think that if there were such, post audit, in addition to what the independent audit will do, is that, how would you go about doing something like that? Because I do think it's important. I think it would contribute to more efficiencies and identifying perhaps weaknesses prior to the actual independent audit.
Yeah, I think, once I get a better handle on how the city works, it will be very important to identify any areas for risk. So anything involving cash, where cash is changing hands, and looking really closely at cash reconciliations, and then identifying, which departments are, could be higher risk due to high cash turnover, and really taking a close look at those.
Very good. Thank you. That's what I was
Thank you.
looking for.
Hi, Kara. I'm last. So being last, a lot of the questions have already been asked and answered. But prior to Georgetown, your previous 3 jobs were all in the Boston area,
Correct.
Including Tufts. When you were at Tufts, did you have to be familiar with the healthcare system in general, or in specifically, or did that not matter for your position?
A general high-level understanding, yes.
Can you go a little further with that one?
So we would often, there was a separate department that handled medical reimbursements from health
Okay.
insurance and things like that.
That was different from what you did?
Yeah, that was outside of the general accounting department that I worked in.
Okay. And you mentioned that, when is it that you will be able to start? If we were interested in having you start, say, at the earlier part of September, would you be able to do that? How long is it going to take you to get your affairs in order that you would be able to come here?
I would have to discuss it with my family, but I hesitate to give a hard date right at this time. I would have to discuss it with my family, but like I said, I'm pretty flexible.
Okay. So if we needed for you to start in September, would you be able to do that?
Potentially. Like I said, I really need to talk to my
I
family.
understand that, but I mean, potentially, is there anything that you can foresee other than your family saying, wait a minute, we have to do this first, or whatever? Is there a reason why you would absolutely not be able to start in September?
Securing childcare for my children is the main thing.
Okay. Okay, that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you.
You very much for coming back or for coming here for the interview. I don't think you had to worry about being redundant at all. Your interview was, I thought, you could hardly hear anything that you said. Everything just broke up to a point where it just was, it's a good thing that you're here today.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you for giving me that opportunity.
Do any of the councilors want to repeat questions? Council Milonazo, then Council Mercia.
Thank you. Just to follow up on Council Kennedy and Council Conway's question relative to when you could start, which I certainly understand and appreciate the position that you and your family are in. But if we offered you the position and we worked it out with Mary Callery, could you see yourself coming in maybe for 2 days a week for a couple of weeks and then starting full-time toward, maybe the middle to the end of September, but at least be here for a couple of days and can get your, introduce yourself obviously to the department and so forth and to other department heads, but they'd actually physically be here for a couple of days, maybe 3 days, initially before you came full-time. Is that something you'd consider?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Council Mercia.
Thank you. Kara, I just wanted to remind you that as an auditor, you would be required to be an ex officio member of the retirement board. Did you realize that? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? All right, Kara, thank you for this interview. We asked that the candidate give a closing statement as to, you could say bye or just give us, but sometimes there are questions that you wish that we had asked, that an issue that you'd like to address. This is also that opportunity. Okay.
What I'd really just like to emphasize to you all is that this is somewhere that I want to be for the long haul. My husband and I made this decision to move back to the Lowell area as a family and raise our family here. This is where we want to put down our roots. This is a city that I love, and this is a job that I would love. So I'm very excited about this opportunity, and I hope that this is somewhere that I can, like I said, settle down long term, really put down some roots with my career. Thank you all.
Thank you. On behalf of the City Council, thank you. Motion to adjourn, second. Thank you.